Doubles and coffee. Following the untimely passing of former President's Senator DEOROOP Temal, who was ailing for some time, I was going to ignore Senator Vera's immature, classless, partisan, emotive, reckless, insensitive, selfish, arrogant, inappropriate, ill-timed, myopic, elitist, disrespectful, illogical, divisive, corrupt rant against the current government, against the UNC party, and against all of us. I was going to ignore it. I was going to leave it until the entire PNM gang decided to double down and to back up Senator Vera's disrespectful, asinine statement. Amory Brown, the spokesman for the senators of the PNM, and the PNM with Penelope Beckles in attendance, went on to attack the UNC for what he described as unwarranted, malicious attacks on the former senator. All of this when the man has passed away. And anyone with any sense of propriety, anyone with any sense of class and brought-upsy would know to simply speak about what you feel about the gentleman, how he served his country, what spares you were impressed by him in, and you wish his family well, and condolences to each and every one who knew him, and so on. But not this dastardly, desperate PNM. Politics in a man who was ailing for a long time, as his wife said, who passed away. Aided and abetted by a president's senator, a senator appointed by the president, who for himself has not shown the class that he purports to uphold. For me personally, I could tell you, I am still awaiting an apology from Senator Vera for when there was an issue in the Senate where the PNM put me before the privileges for doing Planet Senator on Douglas politics, when former Senate President Christine Kangaloo was abusing and bullying and battering and interrupting me more than any other. Now, I did not expect President Senator Vera, who's, as you all say, should be totally independent, on realizing that Senator Roberts was being treated differently from all other senators by former Senate President Kangaloo. I would not expect Senator Vera to show empathy, to ask the president in one of their meetings and say, but why do you interrupt Senator Roberts even when the PNM is not calling standing orders? How could you interrupt a senator 21 times in 30 minutes, but yet you let the PNM talk freely, no matter what amount of nonsense, asininity, stupidity, arrogance or lies they're spewing, no matter how far they stray off the motion or the bill or the order? How come you never interrupt them, President Kangaloo? I would have thought that an independent mind, because, as you say, if Senator Vera has no affinity to one side or the other, then fairness would strike him, but I wouldn't expect that from him. But what I'm waiting for an apology for those of you who don't remember, this privileges committee that I didn't care about because it's PNM on PNM by PNM by PNM. Unfortunately, I could not attend one of the meetings because I had an asthma attack In my life, I've been hospitalized on 2 occasions for asthma and spent upwards of 5 days in the hospital. I've been battling with that since birth. I walk around with all of my asthma medication. Anybody who knows me knows that. Unfortunately, I gave it to my 3 children also. So they have to walk around with their preventative, their Ventolin, and so on. Senator Vera, without knowing me, without asking me, without investigating, without asking my doctors, my lung specialists or anything, got up on Hansard and said I was faking. I didn't have asthma. And it was no excuse to miss his or their privileges committee meeting. When I told and explained to that man that he talked abject nonsense, he did not have the class, the wherewithal, or the maturity to apologize. But that's the depth that Senator Vera has gone to before. When he was attacking the UNC and attacking Jayanti Lakshmidhyar, a young, brilliant attorney, and he said on Hansard that 2 High Court justices WhatsApped him and said they were taken aback and appalled at the actions of the UNC opposition senators at that time. When asked to say who are these High Court judges who took the time and the passion to share with him their innermost thoughts and dislike, disdain, or hatred towards the UNC, he would not say. You see, people must understand this is not something that just happens like this. So Senator Vera's attack on the UNC, even in the most calm, thoughtful of times, when we should be reflective, and now doubled down by the PNM, is really sad. How is it also that the UNC came under attack by Senator Vera and others in the newspaper? It's public record. When what the UNC was saying was there was an issue involving Bliss C. Prasad, when Rowley went by President Paula May Weeks and got her to breach Section 123(4) of the Constitution and made her, talk to her, whispered in her ears, and got her to misbehave in public office and get Bliss C. Prasad to withdraw a merit list that was duly approved by the majority, in this case, the unanimous Police Service Commission Board. Kamala Prasad Bissessa, the leader of the opposition, called for a tribunal to investigate. And part of one of the points we were saying was that Bliss C. Prasad's sister, Cherie C. Prasad, who was then a president's senator, should not take part in the vote or in the proceedings because it involved her sister. Now, this is a basic principle of law, a basic principle of conflict of interest, a basic principle without emotion of apparent bias. Yet Senator Vera went on an attack on the UNC. And once again, he uses the death of a colleague to attack the UNC. And he's ably supported, aided and abetted by all of the PNM. The dwindling PNM. The PNM that has been decimated and shattered. Well, since the PNM finds that the attack on independent institutions by the UNC is unwarranted, it is anti-democratic, it is tyrannical. Let me ask the PNM this. When the PNM attacked former President Carmona about some nonsense, about some wine and some labels, and they let go the Rhoda Barrett on President Carmona, knowing full well that they wanted to select another president, was that an attack on an independent office by the executive arm, the PNM government? What about the attack and the firing of Jawala Rambaran, who since has won $7.5 million for wrongful dismissal, firing him as the independent central bank governor because he was trying to give information to the population about the disbursement and distribution of foreign exchange? Was that PNM an attack on the independent institutions, since you all know what is an attack on the president's senators by the UNC, never mind the cogent arguments being made, the principles being espoused of conflict of interest, apparent bias, actual bias, and recusal. What about the attack by Rowley on the Integrity Commission when the Integrity Commission rightfully investigated him? Now, I believe the outcome of the investigation leaves one to scratch their bald head. But if Rowley failed to declare a benefit of $500,000 from someone who was in receipt of contracts from his government, and he's the Prime Minister, and that person was his former business partner, and he failed to declare that $500,000 discount and benefit on the purchase of an Inez Gate property on his Form B, then that warrants not only an investigation, warrants a conclusion. Rowley attacked the Integrity Commission and the Integrity Commission chairman. What about the attack by the PNM on the BIR and Customs, independent institutions, because they wanted to bring the TTRA? Is the PNM aware of that, since they know about independence and who was attacking independence and democracy and oppression and so on? What about the attack on the Commissioner of Police? The most recent, Gary Griffith, when he was there, and Rowley attacked him, and also went by Paula May Weeks and took action to ensure that the merit list was thwarted. What about that? Wasn't the Police Service Commission an independent institution that should be above political interference, and the president should be above political interference, and the president should follow the Constitution and the law, and should have just had shall send that list to the Parliament? But Rowley came and whispered in her ears, and she transformed the Constitution from shall to may, and got Bliss Sipasa to misbehave in public office. Was that PNM interference with independent institutions? What about with Erla? How Erla was even selected? Was that Antojam before? Was that political interference? And then when Erla dared to disagree with Rowley and the PNM, what happened to poor Erla? In a state of emergency, Erla get locked up, and she was the Commissioner of Police. What do you have to say about that, PNM? What about the attack on the procurement legislation? You have Stuart Smallpin Young now admitting that you have to disposal of assets is critical, and you have to be very careful, and the process must be transparent, procurement and independence and competition, when he was part and parcel of the government of the PNM that watered down the procurement legislation and removed legal fees, medical supplies, and disposal of state assets from under the purview and review of the procurement regulator. But now he knows. So did he know then? And if he knew then, what were they doing with this independent institution called the procurement regulator? What about the attack on the Auditor General for just simply doing her job? Nobody knew who the Auditor General was. I didn't know whether it's man, woman, or child. I didn't know who it was. Auditor General, for history, just their job is accountant, just to audit, to send questions. Permanent secretaries have to answer questions so that you can have an opinion about the accounts and the way that people's money has been spent. The PNM attack, sent pre-action protocol letter, didn't want to pay legal fees for the Auditor General, and Attorney General in the Senate and the Parliament attacking the Auditor General, a Minister of Finance attacking the Auditor General. Was this an attack on an independent institution? Amory Brown, Penelope Beckles, all your PNM hypocrites, black jacket, white jacket? What about the attack on the DPP with the building, and then the Chief Justice jump on the side of the PNM and Rowley to talk and to buff and to attack the DPP? What about when Faris Al-Rawi usurped the authority of the DPP and signed an indemnity, negotiated an indemnity with a prostitute King's Counsel who changed his mind for $10 and a doubles? What about attack on PS of Education by Rowley and Imbert when the PS said, well, we can't get all that money by December? The PNM has attacked independent institutions across the board because the PNM is wants total control. So fire, burn the PNM.